The most powerful being is being itself. Being is. Being has no origin. Being is now, and being always will be. Being itself is not an individual being in the sense that most tend to think about. Because when being is thought of in this way, as having always been, being now, and shall always be, many minds are tainted with the archetype of the God of Abraham. Yet even the description of the God of Abraham excludes the God of Abraham from existing. Because the God of Abraham is a being or an individual being and not being itself. Being itself is eternal. No origin, always having been, is now and always will be. And this being the description of the God of Abraham directly contradicts with descriptions of the God of Abraham. Because one cannot be being itself and also be a being or an individual being that somehow fails to notice when its creations are being deceived by talking snakes and eating forbidden fruits of knowledge of good and evil in a garden that it also created. That is perhaps a being, but it is not the being itself. It is part of being itself, but it is not the being itself. And although a being has eternal existence so far as everything else has eternal existence, for if not, then that itself would negate the absolute truth about the fundamental nature of reality, which is the character of eternality. Always has been, no origin, is now and always will be, in all of its forms, in all of its creations. Yet, within eternal being, all individual beings, no matter how seemingly powerful they may appear to be, no matter how infinite they might seem to be, all have origins. At different points of what could be measured as time within the eternal reality. And these origin points have always been. There are origin points in which they've begun at the same time because they always have been. Just as you always have been. Just as I always have been. Just as each individual stone, plant, insect, animal has ever been. So the factors, which I call the omnifactors, that are attributed to the Abrahamic God, those very factors that contradict the characteristics of this God, are omnifactor prime, as I call it, omnipresence, from which the other omnifactors are inevitably derived, which are omniscience, knowing everything, and omnipotence, the power of or over everything, to do anything and everything. And this is what is being, has always been, and always will be. Because everything has always been done, is being done now, and always will be done. That is the all-power. And all of these things have always been known, because all of these things are ever present. Contemplation on these omnifactors gave rise to this omnifactor paradigm, from which was derived the eternality axiom, which states that all knowledge and all power is in all places at all times. All knowledge and all power is in all places at all times. Just one way of saying what I have been saying. All that there is always has been. All that there is now. All that there is always will be. Perception from the individuated positions from which all things and beings occupy in these seemingly separate existences are what give rise to what we may call the flow of time and the expanse of space. The perception that we have simply must be from an eternal perspective. Everything that possibly can be, has always been, is, and always will be. It is so simple, yet must continue to be repeated. This understanding takes nothing away from significance of each experience, each apparently separate experience, nor does it give any of us any greater position over another. But we choose hierarchies and to take these different positions. And we vie for them, and we fight for them, and we negotiate for them, and we conquer for them, and some submit to them. And this is all well. For in other places, this does not appear as the experience of those who may seem identical in all other ways. Ad infinitum. So all variations on seemingly uncountable spectrums of existence and perception. One reality is not greater than another. Our experience of them is what gives greater or lesser appearance. And it is as it should be. For all experiences and all their combinations must be possible in eternal existence. Nothing can be left out. That is not the meaning of eternal. Eternal has no limit of any kind. Not even when empirical science wants to say and to assert that there are limits. It is not their place to do so. Empirical science admits their limitations, and this is all well. It serves its purpose in our three-dimensional, linear time-flowing existence. This perspective, we have it. And there are many variations on this. Some strikingly similar and identical, and others completely unrecognizable. All knowledge and all power is in all places at all times. This is the eternality axiom, derived from understanding the omnifactor paradigm. A meditation upon which soon reveals the fallacy of individuated creator gods of any kind who assume positions of hierarchy in monarchical, political, reigning empires. And even the empirical sciences that have no recourse with which to prove or disprove the eternality as the fundamental nature of our existence logically leads us to these conclusions. We have, for example, the great Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, that tells us that energy equals mass times the speed of light times itself. E equals mc squared. That mass and energy are interconvertible. One can be changed to the other. Atomic bomb explosions show that we get energy from matter, and particle accelerators show that we can get matter from energy, and also the other way as well, these collisions of particles. And it must be noted that the m for mass in the E equals mc squared is simply a measure of matter. Mass is a measurement of matter. And this is important because one of the laws from empirical science and physics, the conservation of matter, says that matter cannot be created or destroyed, it simply changes form. And lo and behold, the same goes for the first law of thermodynamics and the conservation of energy, which says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It simply changes form. And so we see that energy and matter, and the measurement of it, mass, all have the same property. Of course, because they're interconvertible. You can change one to the other and the other to one. And they both have the quality of not being created or destroyed, simply changing form. And does this not sound familiar? Like eternality itself. Something that cannot be created always has been. And it is. And if it cannot be destroyed, it always will be. Critical thinking, reason, and logic will inevitably lead you there, if you allow it with an open mind and a willingness to exist within truth. I am Hakeem Ali Bokas Alexander.